So yeah, Miss Carpoo is an alien. That's what we found out in chapter 14. She's an alien. She was pretty, and we fell for it. Yep. So, let's see what Miss Carpoo's got up her sleeve, or if she has sleeves, in chapter 15, called No Secrets. Miss Carpoo's real face didn't look anything like Broxholm's. Her skin was a soft green gold color, about the shade of willow trees in spring. It was also covered with scales. She had 3 eyes, with the one in the middle being located above the other 2, sort of in the center of her forehead. It was the biggest of the 3. I didn't realize about the 3rd eye right away, since it was hidden under a protective patch. "Ah, that feels better," she said as she pulled the patch away. The 3rd eye opened. Its purple pupil was vertical like a cat's. When it focused on me, I wanted to shout. I wanted to run. I wanted to faint. But I just stood there, frozen and forced to watch. The strangest part was yet to come. For once, Miss Carpoo had removed the patch from her eye. She pulled something that was a little like a hair clip away from her nose. "Ah," she sighed as her nose rolled down. "And isn't that a relief?" I could see where it would be. If you had a nose like hers, it looked like it belonged to a little green elephant. Only Miss Carpoo's nose was flatter than an elephant's. Also, it had 3 prongs, or fingers or something, on the end. When it was resting, it dangled down to cover her mouth. But it wasn't resting very often. Mostly, it was waving around in front of her like some sort of snake with a mind of its own. "Ah, Duncan, you can't imagine how good it feels to really let my hair down," she said as she pulled off a thing that had covered her head like a shower cap. "Let my hair down" was the wrong phrase, since most of it stood straight up as soon as she pulled off the cap. I don't know if it really qualified as hair. It was lavender and thick as worms. Like her nose, it seemed to move on its own, each thick strand going its own way, curling, uncurling, bending from side to side. Watching it gave me the willies. Unfortunately, I couldn't close my eyes. "One last thing, and then we can talk," she said. "Or at least I can talk. You'll just have to listen for a while." She turned to the refrigerator and pulled out a familiar-looking piece of Tupperware. Lifting off the top, she said, "You can come out now, Poot." She turned the container on its side. The glowing slug thing oozed over the edge and onto the counter. I figured this was either good news or bad news. If this was the same slug I'd first met, it was good news because I was glad it was still alive. If it was just an after-school snack for Miss Carpoo, that was bad news because I really didn't want to watch her eat the thing. After a few seconds, she put her hand on the counter. The thing began to ooze its way up her arm. I figured that, unless she ate with her armpit, this was a good sign. "Well, now that I'm comfortable, let's see what we can do about you," said the alien. She started to walk in my direction. I wanted to scream and run, but I was still frozen. I couldn't even make my eyes go wider, though they were trying for all they were worth. The alien touched me on the forehead with her wooden spoon. Then she pushed until I fell backward. I had a moment of total terror, almost worse than when she had started to take off her mask. Maybe falling backward is some basic fear built into our genes. It sure felt that way. But I didn't fall very far because my forehead was still connected to her wooden spoon. She made a couple of adjustments to the spoon, and soon my body was stretched out flat in the air, 3 feet above the floor. When she lifted the spoon, I came with it, as if I weighed no more than a balloon. Using the spoon, Miss Carpoo put me on a countertop. Then she bent down and looked at me in the face. The slug oozed along her arm as if it wanted to get a closer look, too. It was bad enough to have the alien's 3 eyes staring into my 2, but when her nose started examining me as well, poking and prodding around my face as if it was gathering information for its own purposes, I really wanted to scream, especially when one of those green feelers on the end of the alien's trunk poked its way into my right nostril. "Had a rough week, Duncan?" asked the alien in a voice that actually sounded sympathetic. What was I supposed to do? Nod and smile at her? I did the only thing I could do, which was lie there and stare straight up with wide eyes. If only the violins inside my head would shut up so that I could think. "Poor Duncan," said Miss Carpoo. "Let's see if we can improve your situation a little." She went to the cupboard where we kept the mixing bowls. Stretching her arm, she took one down from the top shelf. When I say stretching her arm, I don't mean like you or I would stretch. Her arm actually got longer, as if it were made of rubber or something. The mixing bowl looked like the bowls we used almost every day in class, but it must have been filled with some kind of alien circuitry, because when she sat it on the edge on a counter and then slid my head inside, it blocked out the radio reception. What bliss! For the first time in days, I had silence inside my head. That was such a relief. I could have kissed that hideous alien face. "My face is not considered hideous where I come from," said Miss Carpoo, "and I would not want a kiss from you anyway." I would have blinked in surprise if I could have. Actually, I would have jumped off the counter and run if I could have, but that wasn't even a possibility. Had she just read my mind? "Yes," said Miss Carpoo. She had read my mind. "It's not quite mind reading," she said quietly. "The circuits in the mixing bowl are not only blocking the radio and television waves coming into your brain, they are amplifying and sorting the waves that you create within. Sorting is the big problem, of course, since your brain is doing a multitude of things at once. The task for the machine is to choose the brain patterns that are relevant, sort them into some order, magnify them, and transmit them to the receiver plugged into my head. It's like mind reading, but it's all done with machines." What was I supposed to say to that? "Don't say anything. I'll do the talking. But since we are going to be working together, we might as well get to know each other a little better." "Working together?" I thought in alarm. The alien smiled. "I need your brain," she said cheerfully, just before she put me to sleep. So, Miss Carpoo needs Duncan's brain. What does Miss Carpoo need Duncan's brain for? We're going to find out in the next chapter. See you then.